we did a lot, but I feel like I barely scratched the surface here.
Before I even arrived in Iceland, I already had the sense that one trip here wasn't going to be enough. That instead, it would be the beginning of a longer relationship with a place too vast, too layered to really understand in a single visit. I spent a week in June road tripping across the southern coast with two of my friends, Kyler and Flip. And we packed a ton into that itinerary. I mean, we shot thousands of photos and covered countless miles. But honestly, even with everything we saw, I kept coming back to that same feeling. This trip was just a survey. It was a first look at a place I've dreamt of visiting. And a place I know I'll return to again. The day one mission was simple. Drive to Selfoss and hit spots along the way. As soon as we landed, we wasted no time getting on the road. First up on the list, this tiny little church nested in the side of this grassy hill. In Icelandic fashion, the clouds never parted at this spot, so the light was a little flat, but I ended up really liking the colors in this scene a whole lot. We hit a number of spots throughout day one, including a couple of waterfalls and even a geyser, which is something I've never seen before. But honestly, outside of the church, I didn't get a ton of photos I loved this day. However, it was just good to get out on the road after that red-eye flight and just kind of adjust. Our goal for day two was to make our way toward Vik. Being our first full day in Iceland, we had a ton of interesting stuff packed into the itinerary. I've always been really drawn to photographing religious architecture and symbolism. And Iceland has countless churches throughout the country, many of which are embedded in some of the wildest scenes imaginable. So I knew I wanted to visit a bunch of these throughout the trip, and that's something we made sure to do.
Hi, buddy. Oh.
After a long day of driving and exploring, we finally made it to Vik and got checked in to our hotel. Right in Vik, there was another beautiful church surrounded by these lush, full lupin fields, so we ended up spending a little time here before hitting the hay. For a scene like this, I am a sucker for fill flash, so of course, I brought one out. The third day, we slept in a little bit before going out to shoot some locations near Vik that we had on our radar. Just before leaving town, we went back up to that same church we shot the night before to get it in bright sunlight. Now, I really enjoy harsh lighting on blue sky days like these. It can be tough to shoot at first, but I find that you can oftentimes pull out some really incredible colors in your scenes. We finally left Vik to start making our way out to Hofn, which would be our home for the next couple days. Kyler and I ended up doing a short hike out to this incredible basalt column waterfall. It was pouring rain when we were out there, and I got totally soaked. But the weather definitely added to the mood of the spot, so I can't really complain too much. After a ton of driving, we were finally in Hofn, and we closed the day at the famous Vestrahorn, which has been on my bucket list for quite a long time. A few hours after sunset, we woke back up and went straight back to Vestrahorn for sunrise. During our time there, Iceland was experiencing midnight sun, which meant it was essentially never dark. It also meant that sunrise was only a couple hours after sunset, just enough time for a short nap in between. Later that day, we drove north of Hofn to an area that had a handful of locations we wanted to check out, including this really interesting lighthouse that was oddly difficult for us to figure out how to walk out to. After a couple nights spent in Hofn, it was time for us to turn around and begin making our way back west, but of course, we still had a bunch of cool spots planned for the next couple days. We got to check out Diamond Beach that morning, icebergs just drifting across the water, riding up onto the shore. The spot had a ton of character. The colors made your wider shots feel dreamy, and the tight shots offered some beautiful textures to focus on. Later that day, we ended up hiking into this amazing canyon, which I am not going to try to pronounce, but it was one of the most otherworldly places I have ever experienced. Spot of the day was Selfoss, what is probably one of the most photographed locations in all of Iceland. But not for no reason. It's a jaw-dropping scene to witness in person, and I'm honestly really unsure if photography even has the power to truly translate a place like this. On day 6, Flip and I started the day a little bit earlier with a hike out to the DC-3 plane wreck. This was something I wanted to see so bad before we left, so I'm glad we got to do it. Today was the day we were going to spend a little bit of time checking out the Highlands. With this being the only real day we had to take our detour up here, I wanted to make the most of it. And I think we did. I even pulled out the drone, which I very rarely do. We ended the day at Haifoss, one of the tallest waterfalls in Iceland, and got blessed with some beautiful golden light as the sun sets behind it. Now from here, we drove essentially through the night back to Selfoss and even shot a little bit on the way there. As the sun rose up, we got some pretty amazing conditions that morning. For the final leg of our trip, we drove up past Reykjavik out to the Snaefellsnes Peninsula. And our first stop on this drive was, you guessed it, another church. Final stop on this list, and really our final big stop of the trip, was Kirkafell, which is a beautiful peak paired with a gorgeous waterfall in the foreground. It was here that I ended up getting what I think is objectively my best photo from the trip, at least the cleanest photo that I got. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to support my channel, definitely leave a like, comment your favorite photo, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Now, lastly, all the images I shot in this video were edited with my presets, so if you want a more direct way to support the work that I'm doing, feel free to check those out on my website if you're interested. That said, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers.